Hi everybody, welcome to module 2. This module, why do I react? Understanding your triggers. In this module we're going to explore firstly what is a trigger, and then understanding why it is you may be getting triggered as a parent and what these triggers are telling us. So starting off with what is a trigger? Well, a trigger is a perceived negative emotion that has been revealed within you as a result of something outside of you. So usually it's, something someone said or done, an event that has created this negative emotional feeling within you. And sometimes you might be sitting there wondering, why the hell am I getting so upset about this? It doesn't make logical sense. But when we are triggered, it is that event or thing that person has said or done is actually talking to an unhealed part of us. And that unhealed part of us is carrying that negative emotion from past experiences, and it's not healed. So every time it's triggered, that negative emotion arises. So parenting is probably the most triggering thing you will ever do or role you will have in your life. Our children, lots of people say our children are our biggest triggers. And it makes absolute sense that they are. So our children, well, basically when most of us, when we step into parenthood, now this might not be the case if you've already been on a healing journey for quite some time before you become a parent, but most of us start this parenting journey full blown in the programs that we have stored within us based on the ways that we were raised and our parents were raised and the generations before us. So when we go into parenting, some might be aware that they didn't like the way that certain ways that they were treated as a child, whether that be lack of emotional interaction through play or just, connection, doing things together. Maybe it's being yelled at all the time, being hit, punished, sent to the room, whatever those things may have been. So we may step into parenting and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. Every mum says, I'm not going to be like my mother, not going to be like my mother. And then suddenly we start noticing our mother coming out in us all the time. And suddenly we are doing these exact things that we vowed to never do as a parent because we just can't seem to control the reaction. So that would be, in my opinion, our first major trigger is we trigger ourselves by reacting to our kids in those ways that just, they don't feel right to us. They don't feel in alignment with how we know deep within us we should be reacting based on our own internal beliefs and resonance of truth. We are actually reacting in a way that is completely out of alignment. And so that is triggering us into this emotional spiral. And that's often where the mum guilt and stuff kicks in, because we know that what we're doing is not in alignment. It's not serving our kids, but we don't know how to get out of it. And we get stuck in the loop. So I'd say that's the first trigger. Now, the second trigger, major trigger, sorry, I should have mentioned I am going to talk about 3 main triggers in this training. So the second trigger would be our children's behaviour. So when we are kids growing up, we experience parenting or the treatment that we received from our caregivers. Now, it might be that, certain behaviors were rewarded, they were recognized as being acceptable. You were met with love when you displayed certain behaviors. Maybe it was when, you put your toys away, or you ate all of your food, or you read your book well, or, you cleaned up after yourself when you finished eating. Maybe it was even, when you were singing, whatever it may be, that you were met with love. But then there are certain behaviors that were met with hostility. Now, whether it be in like the sorts of things that I've talked about in the previous module 1, such as the timeouts, the abandonment, being sent to the bedroom, the hitting, the physical trauma, the emotional abuse through the yelling and the blaming, whatever it may have been, you were met with these hostile emotions from your caregivers. Now, if you think of it as an adult, when someone's yelling at you and saying a bunch of things to you that are hurting you, you start to question. It depends on, I guess, where you are at, but you could go into fight or flight. You're going to have emotions rise within you. You're going to get angry. You're going to start wanting to defend yourself. And you're probably going to be feeling hurt afterwards, wondering why that person decided to rampage on you. It's no different for our children. In fact, it is so much more impactful on our children because they're learning about who they are. And when they are met with those hostile scenarios or emotions from their caregivers, they are learning that in that moment, when they displayed that behavior, when they were being that part of themselves, that they weren't loved, or they were a bad person, they weren't good enough, they weren't meeting expectations. There was something bad about them and what they did. And so we start drawing these negative conclusions about ourselves. Plus, we start associating those behaviors with negative, what's the word I'm looking for? Negative impacts, or a negative response from our caregivers. And so when we've received that negative response often enough, we start to, associate trauma, negativity with that part of ourselves. And so we shut it down and we learn that is bad, don't do it. And then so our parents, when they were doing this to us, they thought that we were learning, we were doing as we were told, and we were meeting their requirements and their expectations if they sent us to our room often enough, or spanked us often enough, or yelled at us often enough. But all we've done is just learn to shut down. And so coming into parenthood, it's important here that I let you know one of the rules of the mind, one of the 11 rules of the mind, one of them is that our mind's number one job is to move us away from pain. It's to keep us from pain and move us towards pleasure. So in order to keep us from pain, when we're suddenly experiencing a situation that we have deemed painful in the past, we put up our emotional blocks, our reactions. This is the trigger. Our reactions to say, hey, no, this is bad, we're not going here, we're not going to go here. We need to do everything in our power to keep this from happening and to remain safe. So therefore, when our kids are displaying these same behaviors, completely age-appropriate, normal child behaviors as a result, most often of unmet needs, when our children display these behaviors to us, 3, 4, 5-year-old you is being triggered because of the backlash they received from displaying those same behaviors when they were a child. And that programming is still within you. So when your child displays that emotion to you, you go into protective mode. Don't want it, don't want to know about it, can't handle it, can't handle it. And that's where the yelling, the reaction, you're fired up, you feel your body kicking in overdrive, and you just fight or flight, basically, reacting without responding. We don't understand, why does that behavior get to me so much? For me, one of them, for me personally, was my kids refusing to sleep. Geez, I feel so terrible for the things and the ways that I behaved when I was in my emotional triggers as a parent before I began to heal. For my children who were not great sleepers, oh Lord, did I get so reactive and triggered by that. Wow, the emotions that created within me were intense. And, my mum told me that she let me cry it out, and that she would just pop me in my cot, go slam all the kitchen cupboards, and go sit in the corner of the backyard with the radio on loud reading her book so that she couldn't hear me. Now, what did that do to me? Even prior to my healing journey, it seems like I had it together enough. Yeah, I drank every weekend, took party drugs quite often, had relationships that weren't going anywhere, that weren't necessarily treating me how I needed to be treated. I had good friends, had jobs, always had jobs and stuff. Didn't have major depression or anxiety, seemed to be doing all right. We don't realize how these things actually affect us. Coming into parenthood, I could not be the parent that I deeply desired to be. And every time I was in that reaction mode, oh, that mum guilt, the sheer despair. And then other parents seem to be able to handle their kids not going to sleep perfectly fine, but then they might be getting triggered by something completely different. Maybe it's squealing that some people just can't handle, and they lose it at their kids, or biting, or whatever it may be. So that's trigger number 2, when our kids display the behaviors that we experience trauma from displaying ourselves. And then trigger number 3 is the way that we are internally, our own emotional well-being, our own internal state of being on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's quite obvious that when we've had a terrible night's sleep, or for whatever reason, we're really tired, or we wake up really tired, unless you're on top of your game and you're aware and you can pull yourself out of it, and you work to get yourself into a better state, a better internal state of being, I'm sure you can reflect on other times where that when you start the day like that, it's just going to be a shit show. And therefore, you're already in reactive mode before you've even began your day or got your coffee. Then we have today's society's pressures, in order to be, on top of things these days. In most cases, both parents need to be working full-time, or maybe you're a single parent still having to work full-time and manage your children, manage the daycare, the schooling, ensuring that they've got everything for daycare and school, lunches, all that sort of stuff, all the appointments, doctor's appointments, the costs of everything, the costs of the house, the groceries, the medical, ensuring we've got enough money to survive, enough money to meet all of our needs. Then we have work, whatever we got going on at work, whether we're under stress from our employers, our managers are, not necessarily treating us well, or maybe we've got important projects that are putting pressure on us. Maybe we're having conflict with our partner, our friends, our other family members. So we've got these, I could go on and on about these list of outside factors that, if we're not aware and we don't practice healing and we don't practice keeping on top of our own emotional well-being, then this multitude of outside factors impact us and they create stress and overwhelm. And stress and overwhelm on top of a child who has unmet needs displaying unpleasant to us behaviours because they are seeking to get those needs met, well, that is often a recipe for a blow up and a reaction. And so it's so important as a parent to master or start to at least learn to stabilize our central nervous system, to work on healing our inner being, and to work on maintaining that. It's a maintenance, it's self-care, and it's an ongoing daily thing. Because if we want to show up for our children and to be able to respond to them rather than react to them, we need to first make sure that we are in that capability, that zone where we are physically able to do that. So that's it for this module 2. Why do I react? Now we understand 3 main triggers that cause us as parents to react. Now, if you're needing, if this is just speaking to you and you're like, hey, yes, I can totally see how I'm constantly reacting in my life, and you would like more information on how I can help you to heal your past, that childhood trauma, and remove it from you, because by doing that, for me, I can now deal with my kids who, when they refuse to sleep, I can now, not 100% of the time, it's a journey, but I would say 70% of the time, I can now pull myself up and I can prevent the reaction, which I'm going to talk about in next module, module 3, before it happens. So I have lived it. I've got the experience. I've got the energy to help you move your energy, as well as the understanding of the subconscious mind to help you move out of those old outdated programs and create new programs, new internal ways of being that support the parent that you want to be. So if that's something that you feel that you could benefit from with my help, then by all means reach out to me in direct message. Alternatively, comment ready on this module when it's uploaded, and I will reach out to you directly to have a chat just via Messenger. So yes, like I mentioned, stick around for module 3 coming tomorrow, where I will give you tips to prevent you from reacting. And until then, I hope this has been very informative for you. If you just have any questions about what I've said here or would like me to elaborate any further, then by all means, please comment below and I'll be happy to open dialogue with you about that. And until tomorrow's module, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this. Bye.